In my last video, I had colored some fabrics that I wanted to use for collage, but I realized I had a lot of darker fabrics, and this time I want to play with the Inktense blocks in some lighter values. My recipe for the clear gesso, the diluted one that I like to use, is about 75% water and 25 clear gesso. I'm not super picky about the ratio, but I just want enough to give it a bit of tooth and be able to have the color move across the surface. So I've painted the gesso on, and I'm going to put a horizon line just in there. I thought I would do a bit of a sunset, but if it doesn't work, I can always go back and cut it up and use it for something else. And so I've got some lighter colors in the blocks, and I'm going to pick out some reds and magentas and then into the oranges and yellows. I'll start in here, just putting down some of that color and then a little bit as a reflection. Remember, I'm not working towards realism. This is just some experimenting. I always like to break the blocks up into shorter pieces. They're a lot easier to use that way. I like to see it spread, and if it's not spreading enough, I'll use a spritz of water. I think I'll move to a shorter, more narrow brush, and then I can move everything across. Then an orange, maybe. So you can see these little bits work very well. Keep in mind, I'm doing this just very loosely. I may or may not use this, as I mentioned, in a piece, but it's going to give me some good lighter values for using in some collage. Just blending it in really well. Keep in mind too that this will, when it's dry, it's going to be far less intense, so it's okay to go a little heavier in some spots, which I think I'm going to do just in here. I see that white area. Then you can't have a sunset too bright, and that's what beautiful sunsets are all about. Maybe I'll move it into that orange. The fabric I'm using is a very old piece of a cotton muslin of some sort. It was the back side of a cushion, and that was stitched, and the cushion was about the Second World War. It had a embroidery of a Canadian frigate. These days, my gosh, it certainly brings those thoughts back to us. Then I've got quite a paler, I like this. Oh, I've got some other stuff on it. Now, one of the other things that I really enjoy using in this kind of work is the acrylic inks, but I don't think I'm going to bring those in quite yet. So then just blending that in a bit more. Had a little too much red on there, but we'll work with that. So it gives a smoother, just by blending it, it gives it a smoother finish. So I think that we're pretty well done with that. It's just suggestive. I think it would be really good with lots of stitching on it, or as I mentioned, it will possibly be used to cut up and something else done with it. But it gives you a sense of how blending with those lighter Inktense blocks can still give you lots of vibrancy and intensity. It's the sunset that I had done. It's dry now, and it has lightened up a bit, but not as much as I had thought. I think it's typical. It's not really as exciting as I had hoped for, But I think if I wanted to use just elements of it, I think maybe things would get better. So I'm going to show you what I like to use. Now, if I were going to think about cutting this up, but I really wasn't quite sure what area I wanted to use. This is actually a mat cut into 2Ls, and you can make them whatever size you like. I prefer to use black, or you can get an inexpensive mat and just cut the two edges there. And what it allows you to do is look at different areas, to isolate different areas, and perhaps even just using a small section of the surface. And even looking like that, it doesn't necessarily look like a sunset, so it could be certainly something else, or even down into this area, or the strip along here. I could just use a smaller segment. So even if I don't use the entire piece as it is, using sections of it I think would be very successful.